Airbnb host. Welcome to Get Paid for Your Pad, the definitive show on Airbnb hosting, featuring the best advice on how to maximize profits from your Airbnb listing, as well as real-life experiences from Airbnb hosts all over the world. Welcome.
Get paid for your pad. 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 Get paid for your pad.
This episode is brought to you by Hostfully, a company that helps you make beautiful guidebooks for your listing. Especially for Get Paid for Your Pad listeners, get 2 free months of their premium version. For more details, visit hostfully.com/pad. Welcome to episode 157 of Get Paid for Your Pad. My name is Jasper, I'm your host, and today I'm doing this episode solo. I've been getting a lot of questions from people about the sale of my apartment in Amsterdam and also the progress that I've made reinvesting the proceeds in different properties around the world. Now, as you may know, I've talked about this before. In Amsterdam, the Airbnb started enforcing the regulations, the local regulations that had been in place for a long time, but they never enforced it. Now, Airbnb this year started to enforce these regulations, which means that hosts can only rent out an entire unit for 60 days. Now, that's not enough for me to hold on to my apartment, and so I decided to sell it, and I've actually already sold it. The real estate market in Amsterdam is very, very hot right now. The prices have risen above pre-financial crisis levels, and it's very easy to sell an apartment if you're in a good location. So it only took me about 2 weeks. I did some small maintenance before I sold the apartment. I've been told that that was a good idea to give the unit a new layer of paint, just fix some minor issues. Because when people come to look at your apartment, they don't want to feel like there's something wrong with it or they need to fix a lot of things. So if it looks good, it looks nice, then apparently you get a better price. This is the first time that I've ever sold an apartment, so I wasn't quite sure what the best strategy was. But this is how I ended up doing it. I hired a broker, and the broker organized a few viewing days. That's how people sell places in Amsterdam, because there's so many buyers that you literally just tell the buyers, okay, you'll be able to see the apartment on these 3 days between these hours. And more than 20 people showed up, and somebody immediately decided to bid the price that I was asking for it, which was around $450,000. So that was it. The person was an investor, so I didn't need to wait for that person to arrange his mortgage and everything. It was a very smooth process. Within a couple of weeks, we were at the notary's office to sign all the contracts. And now I am officially homeless. And, it's something that I've always wanted to achieve. So I'm very proud and happy to finally have reached the homeless status. And I'm very excited for the new opportunities that are ahead. Now, one thing I wanted to notice is, even though the sale of my apartment went pretty smooth, and I was also able to rent out my apartment for 58 days before I sold it. And so, I already also stayed in my own apartment for about 3 or 4 weeks. So during the sales process, I managed to pretty much optimize any empty days, any days that wasn't occupied, to still rent out on Airbnb. But there was one hiccup in the whole process that kind of screwed me a little bit. And so I wanted to mention it because, for people out there who are looking to sell their apartment, this is something that you really have to be careful with. So I knew that I was going to sell my apartment by the end of April. And so I made sure to block my calendar after this date, because obviously if I don't own the apartment anymore, I can't rent it out. And I didn't want somebody to make a booking at a date where I wouldn't be able to host. The thing that I forgot though is that I already had a maximum window of 3 months. So my calendar settings were already set such that people weren't able to book beyond 3 months. And so when I looked at my calendar, with the intention to block all future dates, I noticed that the months that were in the future, the months that were 3 months or more in the future, they were already blocked. And so only the first few months were showing. And so what I did is I blocked these 3 months, but then a few days later, I got a booking in May. I still had instant book on, and I still had it on because I still had some days left in April that I could rent out. So I was really trying to make the most of it. But then I got a booking in May, and at first I wasn't sure how this was possible, because in my mind my calendar was completely blocked. Now, what turned out is, of course, this window, this 3 month window, this moves every day, right? And so as this window was moving, more dates were opening up. So it's kind of a little bit complicated to visualize, but basically every day that passed, like one day, basically the day that was like exactly 3 months in the future plus 1. No, sorry, 3 months in the future minus 1 opened up, and I wasn't aware of that. So I ended up getting a booking, and unfortunately, obviously I had to cancel it, which is a shame, because if you make one cancellation, you lose your superhost status. So now I lost my superhost status, and even though it was an instant booking, and you can cancel up to 3 instant bookings if you're not comfortable with the guest, but you have to provide a reason for that. You have to message the guest and tell them why you don't want to host them. And I really didn't have that reason. The reason that I had to cancel was just because I made a mistake. My calendar wasn't showing correctly because of the settings that I chose, and because basically I didn't just think about it properly. Anyway, so I wanted to mention this. It's kind of annoying because now I have to wait 1 year before I can get my superhost status back, which is kind of a little unfortunate. But at the same time, it's not. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I won't be starting my new Airbnb in Colombia until somewhere at the end of the summer, maybe early fall, maybe September, October. And I'm pretty confident that even without the superhost status, I'll be able to get good traction and run a successful Airbnb. But still, I want to mention it to warn other people. If you are going to go ahead and sell your place, or you need to block your calendar in the future, be careful with the 3 month moving window. There's also a setting that allows you to block all dates by default. So I recommend that you use that setting, and then you just make the dates that are available. You just manually make those available. So then you're guaranteed that everything will be blocked, and you don't make the same mistake that I made. All right. So the next topic I wanted to talk to was the unit that I bought in Colombia. A lot of people have been asking me, how's it going? When is it going to be open? What's the process? So it seems like a lot of people might be interested in investing abroad as well. I can imagine, because there's a lot of cities around the world where the regulations are getting stricter and stricter, and so it makes sense for people to potentially look in other places around the world where the regulations may be a little bit more favorable. So, the current status of my apartment in Colombia is that they are renovating it. I've seen some pictures. They've completely teared down the place. It looks like a huge mess. The roof, the walls, like the floor, like everything is going up. The only thing that will remain is basically the basic structure of the building. but everything else is going to be completely renovated. Now, I've had to deal with a lot of documents in order to arrange this purchase. And especially the transferring money from Holland to Colombia turned out to be an interesting process. So the Colombians, they kind of want to monitor like all the money that comes into the country. And so I had to open an account with a broker, and that broker, in order for me to open that account, they had to do a bunch of due diligence. So I had to show them exactly where my money was coming from. I had to show them the documents of the sale of my apartment, a lot of bank statements, copy of passport, all that kind of stuff. So I had to send those documents over to Colombia, and that took actually a while because I sent the package with all the documents, and it was supposed to arrive within a week or week and a half, but then it didn't. And of course, I lost my receipt. I'm a little unorganized sometimes. It's also a bit challenging to keep, to carry around all these type of like receipts and papers and stuff when you're traveling like I am. But in any case, I lost the tracking code. But fortunately, about 3 or 3.5 weeks after I sent the documents, they arrived. So they were able to open my broker account in Colombia. And mind you, this is not a bank account. This is just a brokerage account that will allow me to send money into the country. So it's quite a little bit complicated, but at the same time, it's quite doable. Anyway, so now I've actually transferred most of the money, and everything should be good. So I'm looking forward to visit and get this apartment up and running. Probably going to document the whole process. I figured having this opportunity to literally start from scratch as an Airbnb host in a country that I'm not very familiar with, where they speak a language that I sort of speak, but not perfectly. I figured it would be an interesting sort of case study for other people who are interested in running Airbnbs in foreign countries. And so I'm going to document everything. I'm going to create videos, create a big blog post so that other people can sort of, see how I'm setting it up. By the way, I also have a pretty extensive blog post about the purchase of my unit in Colombia. So if you go to getpaidforyourpad.com, you'll see there's a blog tab in the menu bar. And if you click on that, you'll see all my blog posts. And you scroll down a bit, you'll see the post that's called Why I Bought a Penthouse in Cali, Colombia to Rent on Airbnb. And this is a really long post. It took me quite a long time to write it, actually. It contains all the research that I've done, all the floor plan, and all sorts of screenshots. It's, I don't know how long it is exactly, but I think it's a couple, at least like 25 or 3,000 words. I also included some information about Cali and Colombia. So if you're interested, go ahead and check it out. By the way, there is one unit still available in the building where I bought. And, this building is perfect for Airbnb because the company that's bought the building and the company that's selling the individual units, like they've bought the building with the purpose to rent it out on Airbnb, which means that you'll never run into problems with the building management because the building is owned by this company. So all the people that are buying the units, they're buying those units with the intention of renting them out. So you're not going to have any problems with residents who are going to complain about the guests coming in and out. So, there's 4 units in the building. I bought the top floor, and I believe the bottom floor is still available. It's the cheapest and the biggest unit, but then obviously, because you're on the ground floor, you don't have a nice view, etc. But in any case, if you're interested, just let me know, and I can send you some information. You've heard me talk about Hostfully a lot over the past few months. I love sending my beautiful Hostfully guidebook to my guests, as it makes me look very professional. I also love including screenshots of my guidebook in my actual Airbnb listing. This helps me stand out from the crowd. Well, now I'm thrilled to announce that I'm a sponsor of the Hostfully Host program. Twice a month, Hostfully selects a host, and features them on their top-ranked blog. This is great promotion for your listing and a cool way to share your favorite local spots to a large audience. What's even cooler is that each Hostly host gets a free set of organic sheets from the Clean Bedroom. And now that I'm a sponsor, you'll also be featured in my newsletter, my social media feeds, and you'll get free access to my video course on how to be a great host. For more details and how to apply, visit hostly.com/hostlyhost. Now, I have also bought a studio unit in the Philippines. I haven't talked about this before. So my intention was to buy free units to rent out on Airbnb, free units in different places around the world. And the sale of my apartment in Amsterdam gives me enough funds to buy those free units if they're all in the sort of $100,000 to $150,000 range. However, I ran into an opportunity in the Philippines that I thought was too good to pass on, but it doesn't fit into the Airbnb model though. So I'm talking about a little island. It's right next to Boracay in the Philippines. So if you've never been to Boracay, Boracay is the most touristic destination in the Philippines. So the Philippines is a very large island group. It has like 7,000 islands or something. It's one of the most beautiful countries that I've ever been to. I mean, there's this unbelievable amount of beautiful little islands with amazing beaches, like white sand beaches, tropical waters, super clear. There's lots of scuba diving. So if you're into beaches, if you're into snorkeling, scuba diving, and other water sports, or if you just want to chill on a little island in the middle of nowhere, then Philippines is really the ideal destination. And I think it's a little bit overlooked still by tourists. Places like Thailand, Vietnam, those are the countries that most people think of when they think of going to Asia and they want to go to some beaches. But I really think that the Philippines is an amazing option. But in any case, Boracay is a tiny little island. And it's completely packed. I mean, it's just there's no space anymore. It's so small. You can pretty much walk anywhere on the island. I'd say it's just a few miles wide, and it's a really cool destination. But it's getting way too crowded for my taste. And also, up until now, there's never been like an international airport that was very close to the island. Last time I went there, I think it was 2013 or so, and you still had to either you fly into Boracay Airport with one of those small planes, like one of those propeller-powered planes, and those are all local flights, right? So you have to fly into Manila first or Cebu, and then you have to take a local flight. The closest international airport was in Calibo, which is a couple hours away. And since Boracay is an island, if you want to fly directly internationally, you have to fly into Calibo, take a taxi for a few hours. And then you have to take like a tiny little boat to get to the island. It's only like a 5 or 10 minute boat ride, but still, the infrastructure wasn't for transportation wasn't that great. And then you have to like take a little tricycle when you arrive at the island. So it's kind of a little bit of a hassle to get there. But now they've improved this a lot. They have just upgraded the airport that's right next to the island, and so this airport is going to be able to receive the big jumbo jets from, not the biggest ones, but at least like the Airbuses and the Boeings, the jets. They're going to be able to receive them from Singapore, from Shanghai, from Japan. And so I think that this is going to really bring in a lot of additional tourists. But as Boracay is pretty much maxed out in terms of construction, I was thinking about the surrounding islands and the area close to Boracay. And so there is another island called Carabao, and that one is completely undiscovered yet. I mean, there's maybe one resort, but other than that, it's completely empty. And so my guess is that this island is going to be the next Boracay in the future. Now, it happens to be the case that I knew a person, because I've looked at investing in real estate in Boracay in the past, but I always felt like I was kind of behind the curve there, and so but I still had some contacts from the time that I was looking into the real estate in Boracay, and one of these contacts showed me this opportunity on Carabao Island, and so they're building a resort there. And I ended up buying a little studio unit in this resort. So this resort has a private beach. They're gonna have a kite surfing and scuba diving school on the beach, and it's just like a 10 or 15-minute boat ride from Boracay. The resort's gonna have their own boat. They have their own little jetty. So I figured instead of going to Boracay, I think a lot of people would like to go to Carabao instead, because it's still so empty. You have your own private beach. It's a much more local, authentic experience, I think, than if you go to Boracay. And that may change in the future. I'm sure there's going to be more resorts, which will kind of, destroy the tranquility and the peacefulness that the island has now. But at the same time, this is probably going to be good for my investment. And so I bought the studio. It's you're not allowed to own land in the Philippines. So the way it works is when you buy something, you're leasing it for 20 years. It's like a leaseback construction, and then after 20 years you can extend it. So I did a lot of due diligence. I did a lot of research because I'm aware that sometimes these projects end up in a total mess, or even it could be like a Ponzi scheme, or there's some fraud going on with this type of deal sometimes. So I spent quite a lot of time talking to other people who've purchased units in the same resort. I've shown all the contracts and stuff to some lawyers, and I really looked into who's behind the project, who's the developer, what are the parties that they're associated with, and there's some big names in there. So in the end of the day, I decided that, it's great. I think it's a great opportunity. And I bought the last one, I believe. So I don't think there's anything available anymore. But in any case, the deal is that, the resort manages the unit, and I get to stay there 2 weeks per year. The rest of the year, it's going to be rented out to tourists, and then I'll be receiving 80% of the revenue. So I'll probably write a blog post about this as well, even though it's not really an Airbnb investment. It might still be interesting for people who are interested in investing to read this, because these leaseback constructions. If you're not familiar with it, it feels a little uncomfortable. Just the idea that technically you don't own it is a little unsettling. But I decided to sort of take the gamble, so to speak, and go ahead. I think the returns are going to be pretty epic. If I look at the prices in Boracay that you pay for the hotels, they're very high. They're very, very high. So I'm going to be getting 80% of the income that's generated from my unit, and I've calculated that will probably get me at least like 10, 15, or potentially even upwards to 20% of a return on investment. So time will tell if this is actually going to happen, but I'm pretty positive about it. But anyway, I'll let you know when the blog post is done, so you can take a look at it. Well, a few other updates. So I'm going to change the Monday episodes that I do a little bit on this podcast. A lot of people have told me that they would love to see episodes that are more centered around one specific topic. So, when I started out doing this podcast back in the day with Fuzefa, we were just interviewing Airbnb hosts, right? We didn't really have a specific topic. And a lot of people have told me that, they look at all the different episodes that are out there, and, people don't want to listen to 155 episodes, right? So they're asking me, which episodes do I listen to? I'm interested in this topic, and this topic. And so what I'm going to do is, from now on, every episode will have a very specific topic. For example, last week we had an episode about home away and Airbnb and VRBO, what are the differences, etc. And so every episode is going to have a topic. If you have any good ideas about topics, by the way, feel free to shoot me an email at jasper@getpaidforyourpad.com. And I will be more than happy to find a good candidate to talk about that topic. Next week, it's going to be about hosting for females. I have a very special guest that is very enthusiastic and excited to talk about this topic. And I can't really comment too much on it since I'm not a woman. But I'm sure it'll be an interesting discussion. Anyway, if you have suggestions, let me know. And I'm also going to create sort of an overview blog post with all the different podcasts that are out there and the different topics, so that if people are interested in a certain topic, they can just go to this page and then you can see, which episodes talk about which topics. Anyway, so that's it for now. I'm currently actually staying in an Airbnb in Taiwan, Taipei. I'm going to be here for 1 month. Taipei is probably my favorite city in Asia. It's really awesome. So if you've never been and you're in the area, I would definitely recommend you check it out. I'm staying at a really nice little 1-bedroom apartment here, actually, that I rented for $1,000 for the whole month. In my favorite neighborhood in Taiwan. And so I'm really excited. It's a really nice new apartment in a nice building. The only thing is that when I entered the apartment, I was welcomed by a lot of people's worst nightmare, the cockroach. Now, that's not so shocking to me because I've traveled a lot in Asia and South America, and cockroaches tend to be around. But in any case, I had to remove 2 of these fellows before I was able to go to sleep. But anyway, I'll be here for a month, so the next few podcasts I'll be doing them from here as well. All right, well, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Get paid for your pad. Get paid for your pad. Get paid for your pad.